Well, come on along and welcome aboard to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride. Coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jake's at the wheel, keeping things on the track. Plenty to get to today on the program. Scott Agness from The Athletic will join us. Kevin Brockway, IU beat writer from CNHI Papers as well. A lot to talk about. It's draft day. My name's in the hat. I'm available, Jake. I have made my services available.
Me too. I hired an agent, hoping to go to the Lakers.
I'm going without an agent. I'm maintaining my eligibility. Where will Romeo land? Who does what? What last-minute trades are going to happen? Who's going where? It's an exciting time, especially if you're one with the name being called becoming an instant multi-millionaire today, as that will be the case for many teenagers. Gee whiz. College World Series is going on. It was the last game for Mike Martin, head coach for Florida State. They lost to Texas Tech 4-1. He's done. I think he's been in coaching since the Lincoln administration. All kidding aside, he'd been there for quite some time. I don't know the history, but he's been there for a long time. Louisville beat Auburn 5-2. That eliminates the War Eagles. Louisville moves forward. Texas Tech moves forward. The Whistler of Vanderbilt does not. If you followed the College World Series at all, the Vanderbilt has it's actually two fans, but there's one specific that they whistle at the games. And it's that bothers some. It's aggravating to some people, I guess, but they've come to an agreement to where he's not going to be doing the other whistler is not there yet. He may be coming. We'll see if they can work something out with him. A lot going on this weekend. The Top 100 camp at Ben Davis High School. A lot of guys in action. A lot of the similar guys that were in action in Bloomington last weekend. But basically anybody who's anybody in Indiana high school basketball will be at Ben Davis. Brayton Bailey from Bedford North Lawrence in the 2020 class. Luka Ballack from Munster. The names are Jalen Blackman from Marion. Luke Brown from Blackford, if you want to get a shot, look at him. Johnny Brunk from Roncalli, I can only assume, potentially related to Joey. Zane Burke from Fort Wayne Blackhawk. I know that Trey Galloway from Culver will be there. Caleb First will be there. Maximus Jizzy from New Palestine. Luke Goody. Basically, all the top talent in the state of Indiana is going to be there. Anthony Leal will be there. Christian Lander will be there. Mabor Majak from Hamilton Southeastern. I mean, it's got about everybody. Kyron Powell. All that going on at Ben Davis High School. That's a lot. That is a lot.
Are coaches
Something profound.
Are coaches allowed to go watch that?
What's that?
So are coaches allowed to be
nope.
that?
Nope. They are. That's a dead period now for the coaches. They can't go see. They can call right now. They can call and talk to the players on the phone, which they couldn't do before. They could see them on campus like they did last weekend, where they're all in Bloomington, which you saw quite a few of the potential players there. But this is even bigger. But mainly the guys in Indiana are looking at. They were in Bloomington last week. They'll be at Ben Davis this weekend for you to check out as well. But I don't know. Is there anything that could be said that's profound at 3 a.m. in Los Angeles? Probably not coming. Probably not coming from me, but it is. It's 3 a.m. in LA.
Yeah, right now, I don't know if anything that can be played over the
I was kidding. It's a joke. It's an inside joke. But it's an inside joke that's not inside. It's outside. But anyway, a lot going on. You've got the College World Series that's going on. You just talked about Michigan still in that from the Big Ten. They're a one win away from making the College World Series finals. Be a good thing for the Big Ten. That shows you how close Indiana is getting. Michigan is a team that Indiana went on the road and took that series from Michigan and actually lost the third game in extra innings. So best of luck to the Michigan Wolverines as they plod forward through the College World Series. Indiana basketball made another offer yesterday to a 2021 five-star shooting guard, Max Christie. How will that go? Well, plenty of time for that to work itself out. Another offer being made by the Hoosiers. One of about 10, I'd say, that's out right now. But he's one of the top players in the country in the class of the 2021. He hails from Rolling Meadows, Illinois. Christie's a five-star target coming in at number 11 nationally, according to the 247 Sports Composite. He's a 6'6", top-ranked player in the state of Illinois. He needs to get stronger, but he's already a very good shooter, more than capable off the bounce. This is the type of player back in the day that Indiana would be full of kids from Indiana, and then they would sprinkle in the best from around, players from places like Illinois, like Eric Anderson, Jamal Meeks, Chris Reynolds, adding into a wealth of talent back in the day of like Greg Graham, Calbert Chaney, Pat Graham, Todd Leary, all those guys. That's kind of where it looks like Archie's trying to morph towards with his recruiting efforts now, the way they seem. But we'll see how that turns out. But we've talked about it. He has not had a lot of luck recruiting kids outside of the state boundaries. Yet, at least. That's going to take some wins. I mean, if you're not from Indiana, you have no allegiance to Indiana or towards IU. And as soon as they get that track turned around, I think obviously the recruiting will turn around. Outside of the borders, that is. But it's going to take something to change. You don't go 0 for 20 by accident. There was a reason. So, but you've got a ton of talent in state right now. A ton. Over the next couple of years. Christian Lander, we've talked about. Trey Kaufman, Caleb First. All these guys we're talking about that's going to be playing this weekend. Anthony Leal, Trey Galloway. Jalen Blackman, he's away. He's a couple years off. But, he's not been offered by Indiana yet. But you know who has offered him? Kelvin Sampson from Houston. Think he wouldn't thrive in that offense? Absolutely. Glenn Grunwald on the question of Sports Illustrated as a freshman, courtesy of our good friend Steve Risley. We ought to get Steve on. Oh, I'm going to call Steve here in a minute. If he's going to brag about being up that late or early for him. I'm not sure which one it is. He's asking the biggest miss that IU made. If you're talking about on the recruiting trail over the past year, I'm not sure that there was one. But to me, the biggest miss was Keon Brooks because he's from within the state.
Agreed. I think he was the best player they missed on, too.
He's not answering if we call him. He's in California. Steve Risley, of course, valued member of the 1981 IU National Championship team, along with Isaiah Thomas, host of others. That was a unique team. They started out the season not looking great from a record standpoint, and then caught fire. Steve Risley's too busy watching Deadliest Catch. I hope he catches lots of fish.
Deadliest Catch is crabs.
Well, I know. I was kidding. Opie's, baby. I used to watch that show all the time.
It's been on for
a long
15
time.
years, something like that.
A good long run, man. Well, it's something different all the time. Something different all the time. The Southport Forum Tip-Off Classics lineup has been released. Southport will take on Greenberg. Brownsburg, Heritage Hills. Hamilton Southeastern will take on Gary Westside. Then you really step it up with Carmel and Evansville Wrights, Christian Lander. Then you've got Silver Creek and Trey Coffin against Blackhawk from Fort Wayne with Caleb First. Then you got Trey Galloway and Culver taking on Anthony Leo and Bloomington South. It is OP season according to Steve Risley, so that means they'll catch lots of them. But that's quite a lineup at Southport next year. That's 6 great games. Those last 3, those are epic matchups. All 3 of those games with IU prospects. Carmel taking on Evansville Wrights and Christian Lander. Of course, Silver Creek, Trey Coffin, and taking on Fort Wayne Blackhawk with Caleb First. Culver and Trey Galloway taking on Bloomington South and Anthony Leal. Well, there you go. Another great lineup. How about David Ortiz? Have you seen that? Mistaken identity. They thought that they were looking for Steve Risley, but they shoot David Ortiz. Okay, here's what I don't get. You're in the Dominican Republic. So you accidentally shoot the most famous, recognizable guy in the Dominican Republic, mistaking him for somebody else. How is that possible? David Ortiz is probably the most recognizable figure in the Dominican Republic. And he's shot because of mistaken identity. He's not a small guy, so it's not like he blends in. How dumb, if this was truly mistaken identity, how dumb this is like the Three Stooges of assassins. Although it's been like 11 stooges. Haven't they arrested like 11 people?
Yeah, something like that. It was like basically
and this
$8,000
all over
hit.
less than $8,000 was paid, like $7,800. I mean, how dumb are you? If you're going to do that, really do that. Why wouldn't you do it in a little quieter way? So if you do screw up, it's not such a magnanimous thing showing around the world on how stupid you are. Not that you should ever be doing something like that, but
I was going to say, if you're going to do that, you're probably not the smartest person in the world in the first place. So,
yeah, you got bigger problems right off the bat, don't you? Yeah, you qualify for bigger problems. Oh, man, I don't know what's going on with Steve Risley. He's got drug deals gone bad, horse lucky. He's got all kinds of stuff. But while Steve Risley enjoys Deadliest Cats, we hope you're enjoying Indiana Sports Beat. We've got plenty more coming back here on the show. Scott Agness from The Athletic joins us today. It's NBA Draft Day. Where's Romeo going to land? We also talk with IU beat writer Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention yesterday was 11 years ago that we lost Terry Hepner, former IU football coach. I meant to mention that yesterday and forgot, but I wanted to mention it again today. But our thoughts and prayers with his family. But we've got plenty more to talk about here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more right after this.
Now it's all out and you know, 'cause I want it to. Turn my back on the rock, that's the plan in the pub, because I'm gonna.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Oh, you know what that means. Our good friend Matt Weaver from Peaks.com joining us. Matthew, how are you, brother?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
It's summertime, I think, if it would ever stop raining.
Yeah. Gonna have to float out of my house.
I'm telling you, man, it's like, wow. I was driving back from seeing my daughter on Sunday, and a lot of fields underwater out there, brother, and it's rained a lot more since then.
Yeah, it's been brutal. I didn't realize I had moved to Seattle.
Yeah, it's definitely been a wet one, man, a wet spring, but it hasn't been wet inside the Indiana complex, as Tom Allen and staff have been very busy. I know that they had one recruiting a rare miss. They did. Luke Kandra picks Louisville over Indiana, which was not a surprise, but a little bit of surprise to me. I mean, I knew you had said Louisville was in the lead, and that turned out to be the case, but they lost kind of a good one there.
Yeah, good player from actually from the same high school as Peyton Ramsey. Plays for Peyton's dad there at Elder High School. I think it's Doug Ramsey. And he was, mentioned him last week. He was down to Louisville, Indiana, and Louisville had the lead going in. I think Indiana made up ground, but just not enough. That Louisville had really done a good job with him, and sometimes it happens. It's not that Indiana did anything wrong. They did everything they could. They just they came up a little bit short. And, he's a good player, but they've offered a lot of O linemen. They've got 2 O line commits. They want to get 3 more, so there's still plenty of fish in the sea out there for them. But it was a bummer of a recruiting defeat for them for sure.
Last week was a big weekend. I know they had a lot of visits, a lot of guys coming in to look at the program for Tom Allen. Anything have come from any of those visits?
Well, the guy who's most likely to pop for Indiana is David Baker, the receiver out of Indianapolis-Scecina High School. He is announcing on, I believe it's the 28th. It's at the end of the month. 28th or 29th is the date he's announcing. Right now I expect it to be Indiana. I mean, obviously recruiting things can change, but I would be surprised if that happens. But I think they're probably going to get him. Gage Keys, the defensive end out of Ohio, Hilliard Davidson. He started a visit at Minnesota. I think he left yesterday. And I'll have something out on Gage today. I actually got a hold of him before he left for Minnesota. And Indiana's right there. He's told me that they're his top 2 or 3. I think this is going to be his last visit, and then I think you can see him make a decision the next week or two. Talked to Jonathan Dennis, the old lineman out of South Florida down there in Miami. He was supposed to visit Kentucky this weekend. He has postponed that trip. He's going to a camp. He really, really liked Indiana. So they did a good job. That's going to be a tough pull. He's got some visits left. He's going to go to Oregon. He's going to reschedule Kentucky, so that's going to be a bit of a tough one. But they've definitely put their best foot forward with him. He really had a great visit. Hanging out with some of the Miami guys like James Head and Jeremy Passmore, some of those guys. He really got a good vibe with them, and why they chose Indiana. So they're in there with him. Reggie Bracey, I have not had a chance to talk to Reggie. He's supposed to go to Iowa this weekend, but everything I've heard is his visit went really, really well. and there's some confidence there. But he's going to Iowa, and that's obviously a good program, and he's gonna see great facilities and a good coaching staff. So we'll see what happens there. But those are kind of the updates. Hunter Decker's the quarterback. Went to Purdue Friday, Saturday, then IU Saturday, Sunday. He's supposed to visit Iowa State this week. He's an Iowa kid, and they've offered. That to me could be kind of the tough one to beat because it's the in-state school. It's closer to home, and so that one could be tough with him. But if they're down, they like him and they like Dexter Williams, the kid from Georgia, the quarterback. So they'd be happy with either one. If it's not Hunter, then I think they'll quickly pivot to Dexter Williams.
And they've done well with quarterbacks lately, and you get to a point to where you start to wonder, well, are they gonna have too many good quarterbacks in camp at one time to pull in that next good quarterback, or are those guys always of the mindset, hey, I'm good enough that I can beat these guys out?
Well, it's the transfer portal. I mean, not just for quarterbacks, for all positions, but it's really changed things. I think the days, I mean, look at Ohio State. They've always had multiple quarterbacks. Now they're basically down to Justin Fields and then a bunch of guys that they brought in to provide depth, and none of them are really, have proven to be, Big Ten, Power 5 level QBs. I mean, so like if Justin Fields goes down at Ohio State, they're kind of in trouble. I mean, they've got some issues there. I mean, Indiana's quarterback depth, quarterback room is as good as it's been. To me, it's one of the better ones in the conference. I mean, they've got 3 legitimate guys, and not everybody can say that. I just think the days of schools stacking a bunch of 4-star quarterbacks, I just don't see it happening. Guys aren't going to sit around and wait 3 years to play. It's just not going to happen. I think if you can get 3 quality quarterbacks like what IU has, you're probably sitting pretty good. I mean, if you can get 4, kudos to you. But I think that's going to be really tough to do. Obviously 2 is not, as we saw, watching IU last year. 2 can be problematic. Just because of injuries and if something happens. But it's going to be tough to stack, especially at that position, because it's the one position where basically one guy plays. It's not like a lot of positions where you can rotate players. It's one guy pretty much gets the job, and the other guys get upset about it and they move on.
Yeah, because you just hit the nail on the head. It's one guy plays, and when that starter is named, barring an injury, you're sitting. And if you're a high level player, especially at quarterback, you want to play. And again, you hit the nail on the head with the transfer portal. Now these guys, they don't have to worry about sitting out a year and going finding a place. They can go find a place to play right now.
Yeah, and I mean, the way the NCAA, before in the past when you wanted to transfer, you had to go and you had to get a release from your school and all that. You don't have to do that anymore. I mean, you just got to go. In fact, you don't even have to tell your coaches you're leaving. All the kid has to do is walk over to the compliance office and fill out some forms, and he's basically a free agent and can be contacted by any schools. Before you couldn't do that. It's kind of changed the game, and whether it's for the better or for the worse, I mean that's up to each individual person's opinion. I think there's pros and cons to it, but it's just the way it is now. It's the way you got it. It's the environment that we're in when it comes to college football and really college sports. I mean, you start to see a little bit in basketball too, but you just gotta have to figure out a way to kind of navigate through this as a coaching staff. And I mean, I think the chances of Jack Tuttle and Michael Penix both being in Indiana for 4 more years is probably not very high. That doesn't mean I'm saying one's going to transfer. I'm just saying when you look at the landscape of college football and what happens with quarterbacks, one guy is not going to win the job, and so that guy is probably going to be unhappy. It's just the way it goes. So you got to keep recruiting, keep trying to find guys, and then maybe hopefully you can try to keep them for as long as possible.
Absolutely, and the clock keeps moving, man. Even though it seems like we're just now reaching the off season, we're a month away from media day at Indiana.
Yeah, and about maybe about 6 weeks from the start of fall camp. I think players report August 2nd or 3rd. that weekend. I think that's the right date. I remember Coach Allen saying it. So yeah, it'll be here before you know it. I mean, off season is there is an off season in college football, but these guys are still doing so much work that it's not really much of an off season. I mean, it's just the way it is, and pretty much like that probably in all sports with the college athletes. They just you train so much year round, but yeah, it'll be here before you know it, and hopefully they can enter fall camp pretty much healthy. I mean, as far as I know, it looks like they're going to be, and hopefully all the freshmen, there's no issues there as far as guys. I mean, there's a couple guys they're waiting on, Antoine Whitner, and I think Deshaun Brown. And so the hope is that everybody will be reporting that first weekend in August.
The biggest thing that Tom Allen has tried to do is add depth to this program, and it seems like he's really done that, especially with the continued recruiting success. As you look at this program, Matt, how much deeper are they as a team now than they were, say, 4 years ago?
The depth is a lot better. I mean, it's never, I don't know if there's even at the best programs in the country. I don't know if your depth's ever perfect. I mean, you have 85 scholarship players, so you can't even. It's not even possible to be 4 deep at every position because that would be 88 players, and that I'm not even counting, kicker, punter, long snapper. So it's probably never perfect for anybody, but it's definitely they've made significant strides there. The one position where maybe you'd like to have a couple more guys is O-line. I want to say they got about 14. I think it's about 13, 14 scholarship O-linemen. You probably like that number to be around. I mean, 4 deep at O-line is probably not possible. That's 20 guys, but I think you probably like to have 16 or 17. So it's not terrible, but you probably like a couple more guys there. But D-line depth's really good. Linebacker depth, secondary depth we talked about is just really, really strong. Running back is as deep as they've been. Quarterback we've obviously talked about. Tight ends, receivers. It's a lot better. Now some of these guys are young guys, so you don't know what you're going to get from them or how ready they're going to be to play. But as far as the talent goes, the depth is much improved.
Is this the year they get that elusive win over the team they're not supposed to beat?
Well, I mean, it's you hate to say it has to be or something, but to me it's time. I mean, it's time to kind of take that next step. You've been 5-7, 5-7. You've been right there on the doorstep with some of these teams. I mean, we've seen it. They've taken Michigan to the wire. They've taken Ohio State deep into the second half. Michigan State to the wire up there and at home. Penn State, same thing. I mean, quite honestly, should have beat Penn State last year. It's time. In my opinion, you're in year 3. The depth's better. It doesn't mean that this season's a failure or a bust if you don't. But another 5-7 season doesn't destroy you, but it makes keeping that momentum going tougher. I mean, it kind of stalls it a little bit, and whoever you get those 6 wins against, that's just to me that right in there has got to be kind of the goal as far as your floor. And then obviously your ceiling, hopefully, is maybe you pull a couple upsets and maybe you can get to 8 wins or something like that. But, they're right there. And at some point to take that step as a program, you got to take the step on the field and beat at least one of those teams.
Absolutely. Matt, what do you got working on Pigs.com?
Like I said, I have a story on Gage Keys, the D in Ohio, Jonathan Dennis, the offensive lineman from South Florida. And then IU offered a kid from actually down there on the river, Eli Matthews. I think he actually lives in Indiana, but he goes to is it Southern Magnet Academy in Louisville, and he picked up an offer as a D lineman. He camped back on June 1st. Louisville offered him a few days ago, and Indiana offered him yesterday. So have something out of him here the next day or two as well.
Absolutely. Matt Weaver from Pigs.com. Can't ever thank you enough, brother. Appreciate you.
Okay, take care.
You bet. Matt Weaver from Pigs.com. Check him out. Complete coverage of IU football there for you. That's going to take care of that segment. Jake Weingarten from StockRisers.com should be joining us in the next one. We'll be talking about some basketball recruiting. Stay tuned. From the golf club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Don't you hear me cry?
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, of course, coming to you from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. Hope your week has gone well. We're about to the end of it, a couple more days. A lot going on this weekend. We've talked about it. Nothing bigger than tonight's NBA draft day. I'm eligible. We'll see if I get picked up. I'm hoping for a lottery pick, but I'll take a first round guaranteed contract, baby. $20 million. Be good enough for me. Good enough for me. Talking with Steve Risley. Rick Greenspan. That's who you're trying to think of, Steve. We were, oh, yeah, he's got it. I see he got it. He sent me a text, too. So, but we were talking about having a conversation about, and yesterday somebody asked me this. Who is the best basketball coach Indiana's had since Bob Knight? Well, to me, that's not even close. It's easy. It's Kelvin Sampson. He had a ton of success in Indiana, and then, of course, he's having plenty of success in Houston. Unfortunately, he ran afoul of NCAA regulations at the time, which were so crazy that they changed that rule within the year even. Kind of nuts. I mean, he got in trouble. He got in trouble for lying to the NCAA, but over making phone calls and text messages, things that, and we've discussed this ad nauseum on here, but things that were so dumb that they changed the rule. But it devastated Indiana. I mean, it did. And that was unfortunate. But anyway, that's a debate people like to have. Who was the best coach? But to me, this is hands down. I mean, who else are you going to say? I mean, Kelvin Sampson is just a good coach. I don't care. You got to put the other stuff aside just to answer that question. That's like answering the question about Bob Knight. You got to separate things. When it comes to the coaching side, I don't know that he has an equal. His basketball mind was such that I truly don't know that he had an equal from that standpoint. But and since then, Kelvin Sampson, without a doubt, to me, is the best basketball mind since then. And I think that he's shown doing what he's done, not only in Indiana, but he did it again. He come back and did it at Houston. I mean, that was a program that it has some history from back in the day, but they weren't doing much when he got there. So he's done a heck of a job there as well. But that is what it is. Where do you think Romeo's going to end up tonight? We'll find out, of course. Is he going to be a lottery pick? Is he going to go to Detroit as some of the mock drafts have him? Will he be around at 18th pick for the Pacers? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be around. With the way the talk has gone and his draft stock has kind of gotten a bump here of late. It just, all things are pointing towards him going before 20, somewhere between 15 and 20. But, it could actually be between 12 and 20. We just have to wait and find out. There's no point in guessing. Hell, we'll know in several hours, so it doesn't really matter, right? Text into the show from Tim asking a couple things, actually, and it's the first. I want to get to the first one because he talked about Landon Turner. I was just talking to Steve Risley. Landon did the interview with Steve Risley the other day on thegruelingtruth.com, and it's a great listen. I mean, these are guys you don't get a chance to hear very often. I try to have guests like that on here as well, but that was a great one because you don't get to hear from Landon Turner very often. And man, he was open and gregarious and fun, and it's just a sit down conversation. Great listen. So dig that up at thegruelingtruth.com. But Landon Turner, he asked. They talked about all kinds of things. Bob Knight back in the day and whether he would play there again and where he was going. And it's just a really, really good listen. So I would suggest you pull that up and listen to it. But Tim also texts in asking, do we see Ramsey starting again at IU, or does Tuttle or Penix get the start? To me, Tim, that's a no-brainer. I think it's definitely going to be Jack Tuttle or Michael Penix. Those guys can do what Indiana has not been able to do for the last 2 years, and that's get the ball downfield. Michael Penix has an absolute cannon of an arm. And when I say cannon, I mean he can probably from his knees throw it to the end zone from the 30-yard line. I mean, this dude can just rocket this ball. Now, that doesn't always translate into greatness, but Jack Tuttle also with a good arm, but also is just a good quarterback. He can get the ball downfield as well. And he's not it's not like he's a runner per se as Michael Penix, but I think they can all run equally as well. Peyton Ramsey, he's shown that he can run. That's why he ended up getting the job over Richard Lago when he did, was because of his running ability. So, but to answer your question, Tim, no, I don't think Ramsey starts again in his career at Indiana. And you heard Matt Weaver from Pigs.com, and he was just on with us, talks about in today's age, I don't see, how he said he doesn't see Jack Tuttle or Michael Penix lasting 4 years here, both of them. I agree. Those guys are both starters. They're going to want to play. And I mean start. So whoever wins that job, if they stay solidly in that job for the season, I would be surprised if the other was still in camp the following year. Now, the difference is Michael Penix has only been to Indiana. This is Jack Tuttle's second school already. So there's that to think about. But I think Indiana's in a great shape right now. My gosh, they've got three good ones, and you've got Peyton Ramsey as a guy who, if he ends up being your backup, that's a pretty daggone good backup. Dude's got a lot of experience. He can run the team. There's no doubt he can run the team. He can't do the things. He hasn't shown he can do the things to win those big games, but he can run the team. It's not like a few years ago when the Colts had Peyton Manning go down and then things just went into it became a dumpster fire. Or actually when you had Nate Sudfeld go down a few years ago at Iowa, and Indiana goes through quarterbacks quickly. I mean, it got kind of bad. It was not great, although Xander Diamant did an okay job coming in and doing things. But you won't have that problem right now. You've got three solid quarterbacks that you can count on to run that offense, which that's a luxury that I'm not sure they're going to have in the future with the talent that they have at this level right now. We've seen that before at Indiana. Back around 2013 when Sudfeld was, a freshman, I guess. You had three guys that were just as good as each other. And, of course, you end up seeing a bunch of transfers. But you're not going to keep that kind of talent locked in. I mean, sitting on a bench, they're just not going to do it nowadays. Joker says the difference I saw between Penix and Ramsey is the limited time of Penix being on the field. As if they were throwing a baseball, Ramsey's fastball is 45 miles an hour. Penix's is 105. Not a bad analogy, Joker. Not a bad analogy because, like I said, Michael Penix has got he's just got a rocket coming out of his shoulder. He can just crank that ball, and it'll matter getting downfield. Steve Risley says Landon is maybe Knight's greatest individual accomplishment. You had to be there to watch that transformation. I bet. I mean, listening to that interview, it was cool because you could go back in time and Landon was great about laying it out and painting a picture of what it was like then. And very vividly, for something that happened so long ago, he did a great job on painting a picture. I mean, it really puts you there. It really did. It puts you in the locker room. It puts you on the floor, on the practice floor. We have a lot of guys on, players and whatnot, and they talk about various things, but it's hard to get real about certain things. Bob Knight's one of those. And so a lot of these players there's a fine line they have to ride. And I understand that. I think most people understand that. But it's refreshing when you hear people like Landon who just are able to openly talk about their experiences and how it really was. It's not all roses and rainbows and unicorns, but there's a rhyme and a reason for everything on how everything went down. And it was just a cool story. It's cool listening to them, cool listening to him and Steve talk. And he kept calling Grizzly the Grizzly. I'm going to start calling you that, Steve. Grizzly the Grizzly. But, yeah, that's a great listen. Pull that up. GruelingTruth.com. Landon Turner was on with the guys. It was just a good it's not even an interview. It was just a great conversation. So, Women's World Cup soccer in action today versus Sweden. You've been keeping up with that. They are trotting. The big discussion is if they win their group, it's harder to route for them or whatever. I don't get that. You got to play the teams regardless, so I don't know what that matters. But that's on the Fox at 3 o'clock today. The College World Series continues. I mentioned earlier, Michigan 1 game away from the World Series finals. Louisville beat Auburn to eliminate the War Eagles. Texas Tech knocks off Florida State to knock out the Seminoles. So I'm assuming one of those teams will be playing Michigan next up. We'll certainly see how that plays out. But that's a place that you'd certainly like to see Indiana, and you can see how close they are when you've got a team like Michigan who's 1 game away from the College Series finals. A team that Indiana took the series from, as we talked about earlier, at Michigan. They beat Michigan for the Big Ten championship. They're there. They're close. But now they've got to re-up. They just lost a third of the roster to the Major League Baseball draft. A lot of drafting going on. Jake, good thing the military draft is still not in force. We wouldn't have a chance.
I think we're a little too old for that.
Yeah, I hope, but you never know. You just never know who's going to do what. People seem to bend the rules however they seem to want to bend them to. Jalen Blackman, he'll be in action this weekend at Ben Davis High School, Top 100 camp, along with a lot of other guys, Anthony Leal, Trey Galloway, Christian Lander, Caleb First, Luke Goody. They're all there. Kyron Powell. They're all in action this weekend. We've got a lot coming up on the show today. Scott Agness is going to join us from The Athletic. We'll talk a little bit more about the upcoming draft, Romeo. Possibility he ends up with the Pacers. Should the Pacers take him if he's available just because it's Romeo? Does it fit in with what they need? Don't know about that. I heard Wojbomb talking about Oladipo's rehab is moving along better than expected, that they could have him back by December, January, which I didn't know it was that far out. But that's pretty far out there. But to be positive about that shows you how serious of an injury this really was. They're positive about the fact they may get him back by next December or January. But that's the case. That is the case. But we've got a lot more coming up on the show, like I said. Scott Agness from The Athletic. Also, Kevin Brockway, IU's beat writer from CNHI Papers, to join us as well. We got plenty to talk about with both those guys. So stay tuned with all that. As we'll also hear from a couple of the IU football players, freshmen. We met with Gary Cooper and Jerry Passmore, CJ Person, and Tywan Mullen yesterday. We'll hear from some of them. See what their thoughts are. Breaking into the bigs, man. It's a big game changer for them all. game changer for all of them. And the Southport Forum Tip-Off Classic lineup released, as I said. Southport taking on Greensburg, Brownsburg, Heritage Hills, Hamilton Southeastern, Gary Westside. Carmel, Evansville Wrights, and Christian Lander. Silver Creek will take Trey Kaufman and taking on Blackhawk from Fort Wayne and Caleb First. Trey Galloway with Culver taking on Anthony Lee and Bloomington South. So a big-time lineup there. But plenty more to get to here on Indiana Sports Beat. Stay tuned. We're back with more from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett. Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey, it's Michael Lewis, former Indiana University player and current UCLA assistant basketball coach, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome into Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Hope your day's off to a great start. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Plenty to get to today on the program. Scott Agness from The Athletic joins us. It's NBA Draft Day. We're going to talk about that. Plenty more. Where will Romeo end up? Also, Kevin Brockway, the IU beat writer from the CNHI papers, joins us as well. Lot to get to. The College World Series is going on last night. Louisville continued a game that was continued from the day before, interrupted by rain, as they knock off Auburn 5-2 to move forward out of the losers division. That was an elimination game. So Auburn says goodbye to Omaha. Texas Tech knocks off Florida State. And Coach Mike Martin ends his career. 4-1 loss to the Red Raiders as Florida State also says goodbye to Omaha. As we move forward there, Michigan, one game away from the College World Series finals. I'm not sure who they play next. I have to pull that up, but I always enjoy watching that. You've got the World Cup going on as well. The women play today. They take on Sweden at 3 o'clock on Fox. So make sure you check that out. A lot going on this weekend. The top 100 camp for Indiana boys basketball at Ben Davis. That'll be going on all day. Every name that everybody that's anybody will be there as far as players. If you haven't had a chance to see any of these guys, Anthony Leal, Trey Galloway, Christian Lander, Caleb First, they're all going to be there. Kyron Powell, Jalen Blackman. I mean, just if they play in Indiana, they'll be there, most likely. We had an opportunity to talk to Gary Cooper. He's a new freshman football player for Indiana. See what it was like. He's making the transition into college. It's a tough game. It's a new game, man. See what Gary had to say.
Talk about the adjustment to college, not just offensively, but just overall the game itself.
The adjustment it was kind of hard at first, my first week, because I'm from Miami. And it was hard just to leave home like that to come way to Indiana, but it's better now. Like, I'm starting to talk to a lot of players on the team. Like, it's good.
Have you got any indication as to kind of how the tight ends are going to be used here, and how much should that feedback kind of factor in the decision to come to you?
Well, they were telling me they throw to their tight ends a lot, and I like that. I love getting the ball, and that's something I really like about Indiana. They use their tight ends. They use their tight ends to block and pass, but a lot. So that's what I like.
Any areas of improvement or things you want to?
Oh, there we go. My bad. I thought we were going straight into to Jeremy. That was Gary Cooper, an IU football freshman, talking about making the transition into college life. As they are doing that, all the guys are on campus now, getting acclimated. Not just there is so much to do. These kids. It doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. When you're coming from high school, you've got school on your own. You're living on your own. You got to deal with that. You've got the classes. You got to learn how to get around a big campus. You're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Everything's not contained in one building. You've got square miles of buildings that you've got to navigate. You've got to sport the schedule that you've got to have implemented from training, weightlifting, eating. It's just 1,000 different things that they have to go through. But got to hear from those guys. We'll hear from them again more as the week goes on and into next week. But we've got a great program today on the show, like I said. Scott Agness from The Athletic. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers will join us. We'll talk about it's draft day. Indiana offered 2021 five-star shooting guard Max Christie, top player from Illinois. See what they can get him into the fold, add him to the list of offers that have been made. But plenty to talk about. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Scott Agness from The Athletic right after this. On Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Stay tuned. We're back.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, joined now by our good friend Scott Agness. Scott, it's draft day, man.
I know. Good morning, Jim. I'm ready to go. It's been a long last few weeks, and especially a busy last 48 hours or so, but we're ready to just get the show on the road here tonight.
You know, it's funny. I mean, if anybody's ever watched a movie like Draft Day or something to give you an understanding, I know that's about football, but there is so much that is going on constantly. Forget about everything that's gone on right up until the moment. But even then, it's like crazed chaos, controlled chaos, I guess. Things are going on right up until that last second a lot of times in making these picks for these teams.
Yeah, so there's several layers to it, right? So the draft boards, I would say, for most teams have been set for the last month or so, and they've made slight tweaks to them. There's the draft board just based on talent. Then there's the draft board that teams will go off of in terms of factoring in things like character, issues in the past, maybe IQ level, maybe areas that really fit towards that team, right? And then really over the last 48 hours, it's gathering any additional intel you can, and especially for teams to try to gather intel in terms of who's drafting whom ahead of them so they can be prepared for their spot. That's one big thing teams appreciate, and why they like some reporters that tip picks so they can have a little extra time when they come on the clock.
You know, then you've had all the workouts that have gone into so many players have worked out for so many teams. And then you have the players like Romeo Langford who, for whatever reason, injury, whatever else, don't work out for teams. That causes some it makes it a little more challenging, I guess, for teams. But what is it like when you've got a high-profile player like a Romeo Langford that doesn't work out for these teams?
So you don't want to read too much into the workouts, in part because a lot of it is dictated by the agents, right? They're trying to not only create a narrative and create demand, right, for their client, but they're also trying to limit the number of workouts they go through. So, I mean, it can get rough for some of these guys. I know a few in the past that had come through Indianapolis. You know, it was their, like, 6th workout in 7 days. And it's like, that's just not good for anyone, going to, say, Philly to Chicago to Indy down to New Orleans. Like, even if you're 18 or 19, that's not a good way to go about it. So agents try to be very particular about things with their clients. For example, Kentucky's Tyler Harrow, his agent really figured him to go 11 to 18. So teams in that path, and the Pacers at the very edge of it at 18, those are the teams they really focused and centered on to send their client there. And so for these workouts, the biggest thing, Jim, that teams really try to get out of these is just the personal time that they can with the individuals and in a group setting. See what they're like away from basketball, what interests them. Can they hold a conversation? Are they a good teammate potentially? Are they yelling in a good way or a bad way during these pre-draft workouts? Are they encouraging? Those are the little things. At this point, they all know what kind of player they are and potentially could become, how their shot is good. Do they play back to the basket? They know those things. Now they've been looking for the intangibles over the last month.
The Pacers obviously looking for added firepower to this offense. And this is an offense, again, we don't know what it's going to be like because of Victor Oladipo. He's probably going to return and be fine, but that's what the hope is. And I'm sure that's how they're going into this draft. But are they, Scott, are they going into it thinking that he's going to be back and that he's going to be fine and we're going to draft to play off of that? Or as a backup, what's the mindset?
Yeah, so going into the draft, it's all about the future for the Pacers. So you're not as much paying attention to your immediate needs, right? It's not like they're the Warriors where they really need depth on the perimeter and shooting, right? And where the Pacers are at right now, they're not built to be a contender just yet. And that's, of course, what they'll aspire to be. Those changes will come in free agency. So once you get to 18, what the Pacers and others in that area generally are looking for is simply the best available.
So it doesn't matter really what position they play. It's the best talent available?
Yeah, I really don't think so. I mean, honestly, if the best center is available at this point, you get him, try to develop him. Because down the road, maybe Sabonis and Turner doesn't work out. Maybe you move one of them. Maybe eventually down the road you move both of them if this prospect becomes what he could potentially be. I don't think the Pacers are set in any position too much where they could all be that selective, right? They really need point guard. They could really use help on the perimeter. They could use shooting. Center, if anything, is the one you'd want to avoid. But if that's their guy, I would still go after him.
And again, it also depends on what the teams ahead of them do. A lot of people kind of know who's going to go where, you think, but then sometimes changes happen for whatever reason. Trade up, trade down, and that changes the balance of who's taking whom.
No, you're exactly right. That's one of the difficulties I foresee here at the 18th position is it's not like you really know 2 of 3 guys that may be available, right? Whereas if you're picking at 7, you could probably hammer down 2 guys and know that one of them in that range is going to be available. So the Pacers, in their mind, there's 13 guys that'll be for certain taken and off the board by the time it gets to them in 18. So they can kind of narrow it down in their mind to 5, 6 guys and really have their pick from there.
And of those 5 or 6 guys, if you look at some of them, it's like a who's list of college basketball. You've got, of course, Romeo Langford, a potential at being there from Indiana, but you've got some guys from UK, Keldon Johnson, Tyler Hero. You mentioned Carson Edwards from Purdue, kind of an outside shot just because of his Indiana connections, and he had a great run in the NCAA tournament. Don't think that's going to happen, but those are possibilities.
Yeah, several Kentucky products. The Pacers wanted to get Keldon Johnson in, but like I was discussing earlier, Jim, that was a move where his agent just said, hey, he'll be gone. We don't want to send him there. And it was something that very similar last year with Aaron Holiday, whose agent thought he would go at 16 to Phoenix. Well, he was still available at 23, so despite no workout, which also further represents how the workouts aren't everything. They're just a small piece to the whole puzzle that this scouting department that consists of about 12 people, they've been studying guys in this whole draft for more than a year. Keldon Johnson's a name. Hero really impressed during his brief workout here recently. There's several different guys that you can turn to. Alexander Walker from Virginia Tech is a name potentially if he's available. So I think what you're really looking at that bunch really, Jim, is versatile defenders, perhaps shooters, and guys that have high IQs. Those are the qualities that stand out of the guys I expect to be around at 18.
Talk with our friend Scott Agness from The Athletic. And Scott, it doesn't matter whether it's Zion Williamson or Romeo Langford. What's the draft day like for these players? What are they going through? What's their routine like?
Yeah, so just depends who it is. Let's take a guy like Romeo, who's invited to the draft, one of about 22 guys. So he's in New York today. They had a media session. Then there's a community event. Then the player often goes out on his own and does stuff that his agent has lined up, whether it's with a shoe company, a Nike, Adidas, whether it's a trading card company, maybe it's a headphone company, right? They're making appearances. They're making additional compensation right there, and they're also giving back to the community. Now they'll get that restless night of sleep last night heading into today's draft day. And I think this is where they just want time to go by quicker, right? They're making last-minute adjustments on their suit, most of which was done yesterday as well, because a lot of times those are measured, and then it's flown in, and then there's all kinds of tailors and everybody. Of course, this is a first-class operation. Last-minute enjoyment, I would say, with their family, and then the event's held at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So they'll head over there early and then just wait for their name to be called and the opportunity to walk across the stage, get that photo off with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver.
You've got a special suit marked out for yourself, Scott?
No, I do not, unfortunately. Not for a situation like that. It's funny, though, how things have changed over the years, right? You go back, and one of the iconic suits that we at least think of, Jim, here in Indianapolis is Jalen Rose. And how, for us now, it would look like it's about 3 sizes too big. And now watch coming up later tonight. You'll see guys that you're like, wow, that's got to hurt. How tight is that? How come that doesn't go all the way down to his legs? How come he's not wearing socks? It's just funny to see how style evolves. And so now it's all about form-fitting, whereas back then it was all about baggy and different shades of colors as well, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I've noticed, at least on the college basketball floor, the shorts, they're getting a little shorter than they used to be, man.
How about OG Anunoby's shorts several years ago? He'd roll those things up about 3 times, and much like Victor Oladipo, you're exposing a ton of thigh where that was unthinkable 5 years ago, and it would be immediately lead to ridicule by his teammates and fans. Now it's just a popular thing, and I think you see that probably more often than not.
Yeah, I can pull my shorts back out of the drawer now, man.
Yeah, we at least don't need to go super short, right? Like they used to have back in the day. At least now it's a little reasonable.
Yeah, no Bob Lanier or Larry Bird or anything like that.
No.
But, it's an exciting time for these guys. And then now the 22 guys you mentioned that get to go to the green room. And this used to be in New York. It was long held in New York where all the TV places are. But it's in Chicago this year. But it's a pretty big place.
No, now it's right there. It's just across the borough over at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn.
Oh, in Brooklyn rather. So they can make their rounds at all the TV places. It's so convenient for them to do so much. You talk about them with the various, whether it's sponsors or marketing opportunities, and the TV opportunities are crazy. You know, ESPN has got their hubs there, of course. Everything is right there. It becomes a mecca for the day.
Yeah, and we're going to see the first kid, Japanese-born product, get drafted here in the first round. And there's over 43 Japanese media individuals credentialed for this event. So it's a worldwide event with national and worldwide appeal. And so all kinds of figures are in New York for this big event. And NBA, I think 2 years ago, Jim, turned into the NFL as it relates to becoming a year-round event. There's points really now where there's not very often a quiet time. Maybe at the end of August, that's usually when team executives try to tune out, turn off their phone, and head to a beach or something. But that's about it, because after this, it's free agency. Then it's NBA Summer League in Las Vegas with meetings for teams and everyone on down. And then before you know it, in September, time to prepare for the season with coaches' meetings and then training camp in mid-September.
Not only that, but the NBA, the NFL, and ESPN, they've turned these draft days into must-see television, events. These used to be things you'd read about in the paper the next day. Now this is must-see TV. Who's wearing what? Who's there? It's crazy.
So for better or worse, you get far more attention and notoriety for the coverage of events like this and free agency, right? Because more than anything, I think it's probably due in part to fantasy football and basketball, right? It's the transaction game. It's why guys like Woj and Shams have become so popular and have amassed millions of followers. Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. People care almost more about what's next or the possibilities than they do what's right now. And I think a lot of that also goes back to having hope. At this time of year, all teams mostly have some kind of hope. Hope for the top pick. Hope for the best draft pick. Hope to be a playoff team for the first time in a decade. Or if you're the Warriors, usually it's hope to win another NBA title. So I think that's the other thing that generally appeals to a mass audience. Whereas in the middle of December or January, people are still tuned into football. They're still tuned into their high school sports. There's just so many other conflicts that get in the way.
How many of the first-round picks in the New Orleans picked up do they have for this year?
Just that number 4 pick. Just the number 4 pick. Now they have control, essentially, of the Lakers' picks, I think, for the next 6 years, all the way through – no, next 5 years, that is. Through 2025, as it relates to the opportunity to swap picks. So if the Lakers finish worse than New Orleans did, or they have a chance to defer the pick until the next year. So it was a deal that had to get done. They got their guy in Anthony Davis, and while it does seem like a large package and that New Orleans won, I also like the return that LA got. They just couldn't have another year where they ended up without any name stars to put around LeBron, and now having AD going into the draft and going into free agency here, that's another elite player, a top 5 guy in this league that'll appeal to free agents who are looking for a new place to sign. And believe this, Jim, I don't know if I mentioned it, free agency is going to be wild. More than 40% of the league are free agents, as we've seen several guys in numerous days, guys like Chris Middleton in Milwaukee, Harrison Barnes. He had $25 million guaranteed next year. He declined the option, which tells me his agent has something even better already signed up.
Yeah,
That's
saw that.
Stunning.
I saw that. I was like, wow, turning big dollars down. Did the Lakers mortgage their future for today? I know that they have to keep LeBron happy and make LeBron happy, and LeBron is on his last hurrah right now of trying to get a championship out there. But have they mortgaged their future for today?
I'm not sure what else you're going to do. This was the guy you wanted. This is a top 5 pick. There's a chance, and really in my mind, perhaps they could have gotten it done with maybe one last draft pick or one less of those players. And more than anything, it makes you look back and think how either, A, you need to give those draft picks more time. The second overall picks like Lonzo Ball, like Brandon Ingram, and they're just not fully developed into the player they're going to be. Or at the same time, you consider that deal and say, look, they have not been anything overly special. We could go get a All-NBA, probably the best center in the league, a top 5 player. Let's not hold back. We need to capitalize on LeBron James's years. And think about it this year, for example. Jim, you go back to it, the Warriors suffered injuries. The door was wide open, and that in part is what allowed Toronto to win. And I bet if Milwaukee was right there, they would have threatened to win the title over a worn-down and battered Warriors team. So I think you can't hesitate on situations like that. Perhaps they could have sent one less pick, but at some point you just don't worry about it and you figure that stuff out later.
Right, and you know the trades it's going to get probably a little crazy around this time, as we saw Mike Conley traded to the Jazz yesterday.
Yeah, and I really like that move, and I think a lot of fans, kind of sleep and forget about the level in which he has played with. He's coming off a career year in Memphis where they had a down season. He lost one of his best teammates in Marc Gasol midway through the year, who was obviously traded to Toronto. Conley has just been a true professional, a guy that's just handled his situation. Now he's got paid handsomely, but I think he's going to be a tremendous help for this Utah Jazz team, who's going to become a threat in the Western Conference. And it's amazing to look down at the list. There's probably a half dozen teams at this point in the year, Jim. And obviously we haven't gotten to free agency, but so many teams that probably think, hey, look, we're contenders at this point. Portland, Denver, now Utah is in the mix, and they have a trio with Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and now Mike Conley Jr.
And every time I see his name, all I can think about is how did Mike Conley Jr. and Greg Oden get away from Indiana?
So how that situation played out was they weren't the biggest fans of Mike Davis, and it even got to the point where the little details, they went without those, right? And I believe Mike Conley even opened a recruiting letter that was intended for someone else. It was like to Chris, and Mike opened, and he's like, all right, well, clearly I'm not a priority. And I remember watching those two closely, having gone to a rival school in North Central, broadcasting their games and everything. Those two were so dominant. That was a dynamic pair. But who would have thought that Mike Conley not only would become the player that he has been, but ultimately, in fairness, because of injuries, has become the better player in everything when you compare those two. I just wish he would be voted to the All-Star game, because he's an underrated player and one of the better point guards we've seen over this last decade. He's just played in a more difficult and challenging Western Conference, so I don't think he's been rewarded as justly as he should.
Yeah, he's played this. Was he going into his 18th season, maybe?
Not quite that high.
He's been around the league for a minute.
I think it'd be about his 13th.
Is it that on? Am I that far
14.
off? I don't know why I was thinking 17 for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, he's just turned out to be an NBA veteran, and that's the best way you could put it. He is a veteran of the NBA, and he's done quite well. You're absolutely right, Scott.
And for Utah, I was going to say last thing, Jim, and for Utah, while it is a hefty price to pay, right, at $32 million for this year and next, it's only a 2-year deal, and they're getting him as he falls out of his prime year. So I think they're able to maximize his value, and it's a worthwhile gamble for the Utah Jazz.
He's proven to be a pretty good gamble wherever he's been, man. And so is Sky Agness.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate you as always.
All right, good to be on with you, Jim. Have fun tonight.
Before I forget you got anything that you're working on that we need to tell the people about?
Yeah, so last night I published my draft preview. For all your Pacer fans especially, looking forward to tonight's coverage. Go check that out at The Athletic. And then coming up, I think next week is when it'll publish. I'll do a long profile on Ryan Carr. He's the director of player personnel for the Pacers. He's from Washington, but ended up in Bloomington as a manager for Coach Knight in the 90s. And then from there, he has an incredible story ending up with the Pacers, and he's stayed with them really ever since 1997. So it's a great story for Pacers and IU fans alike.
Sounds good. Look forward to In the Athletic under Scott Agness. Appreciate you so much, man. Thank you very much, Scott.
All right, see you, Jim.
You betcha. Scott Agness with us. We got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle right after this. Coming from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Kevin Brockway joins me. Back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. And as promised, our good friend Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Kevin, how are you, sir?
Good morning from the beautiful Eagle Point Studios, right?
Always a good day. Except for it's been raining for a month of Sundays, it seems like, and I'm not sure that it's ever going to stop. It's like driving me insane. I'm like, all right, it's time. I enjoy listening to the rainfall and all that, but it's run its course.
Well, yeah, and then it gets a little humid, and my AC has been on and off for the last month. That has not been pleasant, but it is fixed for now. So fingers crossed, it'll stay that way for the summer. So.
Well, you've been in Florida for long enough. You're used to that humidity and no air conditioning. Just pretend like you just run some ocean music or something.
I'll pretend like it's a hurricane, but hey, we got a big day today. It's NBA draft day.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Romeo Langford, one of the big names on the docket for Indiana fans. Plenty of other names, obviously, on the board. But who's going to go where? Zion Williamson, of course, expected to go first. A lot of things will probably go to as planned. Ja Morant is highly expected to be the number 2 pick. Things will probably go to plan for a while until somebody makes that last-second trade.
Yeah, and, Mike Conley, I'm sure you saw, was dealt, former Indianapolis kid, was dealt to Utah. So that's definitely going to open up the door for Ja Morant to go 2, and then probably R.J. Barrett to go 3 to the Knicks. And then from there, that's when the draft will start to get interesting. And Romeo has been kind of up and down this month, but he seems to be trending upward the last few days in terms of his draft stock. There was a report from Yahoo Sports Day that the Miami Heat, with the 13th pick, have interest in Romeo, and Jonathan Giovanni from ESPN has him going 15th to the Pistons. So there was a thought, I think, early in the week that Romeo might slide to the Pacers. I'm not 100% sure now that that's going to be the case. I think he might end up being picked before then.
You know what? I don't think he's going to be available by the time the Pacers come around at number 18. But at the same time, I'm not sure that they'd pick him. That's not what I would talk to Scott Agness before this, and I'm just not sure that that's what is best for what they need right now. But who knows? You never know. I mean, a lot of people look at it just from the PR standpoint, but that only goes so far. I got news for you. If you don't produce or you don't win, that PR hit, that doesn't mean jack, and it goes away just as fast as it comes.
And the Pacers, too, are not one of those franchises that, needs help from a hometown kid to fill the building. It's a basketball. People love basketball in the state regardless of who plays here. So I think I do agree that that's a little overrated a bit. But, I had a chance to attend the Pacers, season wrap-up press conference last month, and one of the things that Kevin Pritchard said was they're looking for guys that can kind of create off the dribble a little bit, create their own offense, and Romeo does fit that bill. He does have that first step, that athletic first step that you need. I mean, obviously the big question going in is the shooting, and how much did the thumb impact the shooting? Was it really that? Or is it something more mechanically flawed? I heard Dan Dackett say yesterday that he has a hitch in his shot. But 27% from three at a time when the NBA really values shooting, you just wonder, if you don't have that outside shot to complement the ability to get to the basket, is it really going to work at the NBA level?
Well, and I think Dan was probably part of that was going off of that ESPN video that came out. I posted that on social media as well, but there was a 16-minute video that ESPN produced that was basically a pre-draft scouting report. I'm sure they did it on probably the top 20, but there was one on Romeo, and it listed all of his accolades, all of his positives, all the things that he can do so well, but it also did not squirm away from the things that he doesn't do well and the things he needs great improvement on. One of those was his shot, and they didn't put a lot of credence into the injury thing. But I'm first of all, I was kind of amazed on how even that thing was. It was no love fest. It was like, just here's the facts.
Yeah, it started out very positive, and then it went a little negative. Kind of like it balanced its way out. It listed all the pros and cons. It was a really balanced account of the kind of player that Romeo is, and it also got into the fact that he wasn't a guy that moved with the ball well. I'm sure Indiana fans saw that. Was kind of a guy that stood in the corner a lot. When he didn't have the ball in his hands, he wasn't quite as engaged on the offensive end in the half court, and then defensively the same thing too, the engagement and the body language. But he certainly has the athletic capability to be a good defender. Sometimes we'll get caught on screens. There was a lot to his game that they kind of picked apart there in that video. It was a very interesting video, I thought, as well.
I posted that on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. I highly recommend you watch it if you have not. It gives a complete and total account. 16 minutes, that's not a highlight reel. That's going in depth, and like I said, and you've mentioned, they really did. It wasn't so much positive and negative as here's this and here's that. Here's what he does well. Here's what he doesn't do well, but it didn't. A lot of times, organizations, especially like ESPN, they'll skirt away from anything that is close to being negative. But this thing was pretty 50-50, and just laid it on the line.
Yeah, no, I thought it was very well done. And, you can't discount, too, these organizations, they do their homework off the court as well. So they'll be picking apart Romeo and other prospects in terms of, what kind of people they are, the character, what they bring to the locker room, too. So it'll all factor into it, and it'll be interesting to see where Romeo stands. But it seems like, based on a lot of the people that are in the know that follow the draft very closely, that his stock is rising a little bit of late, and he probably won't get picked in the lottery, but I don't think he'll slip under 20 either.
Here's the one thing: regardless, he's going to be a multi-millionaire come this time tonight, or come this time tomorrow. He's going to be a multi-millionaire.
There's no doubt about that, Jim. But the key to the NBA, and we've seen this a lot, it's not always the first contract, it's the second contract. I mean, that's where you make the tens of millions. And that's what you have to strive for. So, you can obviously have that, you're going to have that 3-year guarantee, that 4-year first-year contract that'll probably pay you, if Romeo gets drafted, probably in the neighborhood of, $20 million for 3 or 4 years. And, but if you blow that and don't get the second contract, then, believe it or not, that's not necessarily money that's going to carry you for the rest of your life. So,
I promise you, $20 million could carry me for the rest of my life. I promise you.
You'd be surprised, though. You've seen there are plenty of athletes that can squander that kind of money because they.
Well, I know people can squander it, but that's what they're doing. They're squandering it. You don't have to. $20 million. If you can't live on $20 million, you got issues, man.
You would think. But my point is, you could be really set if you work hard in the NBA, you do the right things, and you get the second contract. And that's the key, I think, for Romeo, too. If he gets picked in the first round, it's like, where do you go from here? And, what kind of pro are you going to be? What are you going to be responsible, accountable on the court and off the court? And I think that'll be the big question going forward for him as well.
Oh, yeah, that's where the big dollars come. You're not wrong about that. Not only that, then you start talking about the endorsement money. And Romeo's got kind of he's got that personality that people gravitate towards. He's got the cool name. He's got the pretty face. His sterling reputation, very calm. He could do well in the endorsement market.
No doubt. I mean, he's a former Indiana Mr. Basketball. He's a legend in a state that loves basketball. So I think that carries a lot of weight, and it would carry weight, as well if he was picked for the Pacers. I think a little bit, but I think that the basketball decision will be like what kind of fit he's going to be. I really think the Pistons at 15 makes a lot of sense, and he'll still be in the Midwest. And he'll be at a team that, was kind of a fringe playoff team last year. He can kind of grow and develop there. And he's a high-risk, high-reward guy. Let's lay it on the line here. He could either be really good for you or, he could be a bust. So I think that pretty much, sums up, his situation, going into tomorrow night.
Talking with Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, the IU basketball schedule partially released, the non-conference portion of it, at least parts of it. A lot of grumblings about the schedule for Indiana, and I got to be honest with you, Kevin, I don't get it. You got people that are grumbling and wanting these top-tier matchups, and I'm like, Indiana's not a top-tier team at this moment, so why do you want to go into a top-tier opponent and get your head ripped off?
Exactly. I kind of agree with you in the sense that, there's a fine line to it. You don't want to overschedule because you don't want to kill your team's confidence heading into Big Ten play. That plays a role in it. You don't necessarily want to underschedule, though, because you want to be prepared for the conference schedule. And I think, when you look down the schedule, you're going to get Arkansas at Assembly Hall. You're going to get FSU at Assembly Hall as part of the, ACC Big Ten Challenge. You're going to get Notre Dame, the Crossroads Classic. You're going to get UConn in New York City. I mean, that's those are four pretty good teams, and it's kind of to be determined. The rest of it. You've got Portland State and you've got Princeton, but I think you've got enough there that's going to get you prepared for the Big Ten schedule without necessarily, like you said, ripping your head off or crushing your confidence going into league play.
I mean, this is not. An IU team of the early 90s or the 80s that routinely did the head ripping themselves when they were the ones that was the one-headed monster coming through. They're trying to get back to that. But Archie's in the process of doing that. He's in the process of revamping his roster and all of that. But they don't. I can't say that they're there yet. Obviously, coming off of the season that they've came off of. With that included a 12-game losing streak, they're not there yet.
Yeah, and I agree in terms of they're working. And listen, they lost Romeo Langford, they lost Jawan Morgan, their two leading scorers. So Jawan Morgan, a veteran guy inside. Now, obviously, you're bringing in a dynamic player in Trace Jackson Davis, but he's still just a freshman, and he's going to probably have a few bumps in the road along the way, particularly early in non-conference schedules. So. You're going to have some growing pains there early, and guys are going to have to, you have to let your team kind of find its way, and part of that is by scheduling, smartly and not necessarily overloading your schedule and, letting a season, slip away before it really begins.
Talking with Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Kevin, we got to see a lot of talent on the floor at Assembly Hall, at Cook Hall last weekend with several of the top prospects from within the state that Indiana is looking at on the floor there.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed watching Anthony Leo play, and when I watched him in the All-Stars, he wasn't quite as dynamic. He had like 6 or 7 points. I think he was talking about his knee. But he shot it really well in the one game that we watched him play for Bloomington South there in the team camp, and I think he's a guy that's going to be interesting. And he's a hometown kid, and obviously IU has offered him, so Stanford, Xavier, a bunch of teams. But you'd have to think that there might be an allure to kind of stay close to the home, and probably a kid that grew up as a Hoosier fan, would love to put on the candy stripes. I think he's a guy that. And I think he's a guy that could really help him, in particular his ability to shoot from the outside, which, as we discussed, has been a big problem for IU in the Archie Miller era.
He's your prototypical college athlete. I look at him; he's got the build, he's got the look, good-looking kid. Looks like he could be in college right now. To be honest with you, he physically he's not skinny, not Arnold Schwarzenegger by any means, but he's got a build that for a high school kid looks good, because you don't want him coming in too thin. You got to add a lot of weight to him and all that. But he looks solid right now. He looks like he's just going to be one of those solid 3 to 4 year players that you can really build a program around. With more, not just him, obviously, other players like him, but those type of players. But then there was other talent there as well. Christian Lander, obviously, man, he's going to be a dynamic player.
Yeah, really fast with the ball in his hands. I was very impressed with his ability to get up and down the court. Caleb First, the big guy, he was double teamed, he was triple teamed throughout. But he battled. He managed to finish inside some. He got some offensive rebounds and putbacks. I mean, he's the biggest kid on the floor. He's 6'8". He should. And I thought that, he was good. And Luke Goody also looks like, to me, kind of like a point forward type, a 6'5" guy that can pass, that's got really good instincts on the court, can shoot a little bit, can handle the ball pretty well. I think he's another interesting guy within the state worth keeping an eye on the next few years.
Yeah, he didn't shoot the ball very well over the weekend in Bloomington, but you can tell his mechanics are so good that you know that he's a good shooter, that he was either probably nervous or it was just one of those days or whatever. But man, he's got a really good looking shot.
Yeah, and what impressed me was he made a really nice full court pass, found a guy downfield, just really good vision, and instincts to be able to find a guy that was kind of streaking like that, and just delivered it perfect in stride where he can finish a layup. I mean, I really like that aspect of his game, his ability to kind of see the floor well, and that's a valuable asset to have as a 6'5" guy. When I was talking to some people, I first thought, hey, maybe this kid could be a point guard. But I don't know if he quite handles the ball that well. But as a point forward type, that's a very valuable player in your offense. A guy that from the wing that can kind of create offense, not just by shooting but by passing. I think he could be a real asset, either in Indiana or wherever he goes.
A lot of these players that we saw last weekend will be in action at Ben Davis this week, the top 100 for the IBCA going on. So another opportunity to see actually a lot more. There were only limited teams. That was a team camp down in Bloomington last weekend. I don't know, 8 teams there maybe. There will be substantially more going on this weekend with everybody that is anybody is playing in this thing. Jalen Blackman, Christian Lander, Caleb First, Anthony Leal, Trey Galloway, Luke, whatever his name is, I can't think of it right now. But there's just everybody that's anybody is playing this weekend at Ben Davis High School.
Damon Bailey's son, right? Isn't he playing also?
Brayton Bailey's also playing, yeah.
Yeah, so you got a little bit of everything there. It's going to be an interesting event, a fun event, and I think another good chance for people around the state to kind of see, the top talent. And that's the thing that's been really impressive and eye-opening, in the last few months and going to these all-star events, Jim, is the amount of high school basketball talent in the state. It's just a lot of fun to see. I mean, I was really impressed in the All-Star game with Jalen Wyndham. He's going to Creighton. I mean, I think he's another guy that's going to do really well in the Big East. There's just so many players here. The 2 kids that are going up to Indiana State, Laravia and Kobe Barnes. There's so many, and, I think it's just a matter of, as we've discussed with Archie, it's just getting the right guys, getting the guys that are going to fit the best for what you do, for what your program. And I think certainly in, Trace Jackson Davis and Armand Franklin, he's got two of the better ones in the state. But, I think, you hopefully build around more of those guys and hopefully, get good reports on them as they continue to progress through their high school careers.
We'll see it. Well, Kevin, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. Look forward to it. We'll head out. I probably may see it. It's draft night tonight, so we got that to look forward to.
Yep, we'll see where Romeo goes.
All right, Kevin Brockway, CNHI Papers, IU beat writer. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Thank you.
That's going to wrap it up for today from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat will be back with plenty more tomorrow, of course. Todd Leary with us as always, so make sure you tune in for that. But that'll wrap it up. For Jake, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.